This video is brought to you by Osmocote, the Planters plant food.
I'm Amy Grisak, a garden writer in Great Falls, Montana, and today I want to show you a couple of really cool gardening cousins that are a lot of fun to grow each summer. I'm talking about tomatillos and ground cherries, which are also called husk cherries. Now these are both distant relatives of tomatoes, but they have the distinct difference of being covered in this paper. Here's an immature one, kind of like a Chinese lantern. So I'm sure you've seen tomatillos in the grocery store. They are the go-to ingredient for the wonderful green salsa that is just so light and fresh and absolutely delicious. And the good thing is they are super easy to grow. This plant here actually came from a compost pile that I brought home from one of the community gardens. It didn't decompose over the winter. We needed to get it out. I ended up throwing it in my truck and bringing it home and putting it in this garden. And I got some interesting seeds. I got some marigolds that I didn't plant, but I also got tomatillos. Now this variety, there's several different varieties. This one in particular tends to sprawl a bit more. Other varieties will stand 2 feet or so, up to 30 inches tall, kind of sprawling and flopping and everything like that, but they'll definitely be more upright. This one's sprawling but still producing the great fruit that I really love when I'm making my green salsa. So this one, it just came up on me. Others I have started from seed and I put in plants once the danger of frost is past, because just like tomatoes, they are pretty sensitive to a frost. So in the springtime, you can seed them, in May or so when the ground is starting to warm up, but you don't want to set your plants out until you're not going to get nipped anymore or be ready to cover them. So tomatillos is super easy to grow. You can stake them up if you want. You can put a tomato cage around them if you want. That'll help keep them in one spot. But basically you just pick them when the peel it's starting to turn a little bit, and actually the fruit will start to show. It'll kind of start popping open a bit. There's quite a few on here that are coming, but really not too many. No others really look ripe. So I'm just going to let this go for the rest of the summer, and towards the end of the year, if there's a frost coming, I'll pull the whole plant up and take it in the garage and pick off the ones that are ready and just put them in a flat box and keep them in the garage where it's nice and cool. Or you can put them in a bag and put them in your vegetable drawer of your refrigerator, and they will last for several weeks in there. So you don't have to make this massive batch of salsa. You can make it as you want to over several weeks, or you can make a massive batch and can it. It's just fantastic. So tomatillos are our first one we're going to talk about, or that we talked about. Really good and really easy to grow. Now the next one I wanted to tell you about are, like I said, the ground cherries, which are also called husk cherries because they have that papery coating as well, just like the tomatillos. Now these are very similar in the leaf look and also growing habit. These also tend to sprawl, like some of the tomatillo varieties, they tend to sprawl. So the nice thing about ground cherries is you can put them where they're going to cover a large area and just let them do their thing. Now people often want to know when the ground cherries are ripe, because obviously you can't see inside the husk very well. The really good indication is the name. They're called ground cherries because they're ripe when they drop from the vine. So, or a lot of times, once in a while you can find cherries on the vine that are brown. So when they're brown like this and starting to dry out a little bit, you just peel back the husk, and there is the little cherry. It's just a nice little orange, well, it's a little fruit, it's not technically a cherry. Nice little orange fruit. But it tastes like pineapple, like a mild pineapple, where the tomatillo is more of a mild tomato-y flavor. The ground cherries are definitely sweeter. Now when our little guy, or our oldest now, Sam, was little, maybe a year and a half old, he would just sit right by the plant and just keep unwrapping and just keep popping it in his mouth. So this is a really great one if you have kids. Plus, ground cherries make really good jellies. Now I have to warn you with one thing. Some people love it, others hate it. With both tomatillos and ground cherries, they can get a little invasive. So I put the ground cherries here because it's kind of by the roses, it's in kind of a wild spot of the garden, and they can just go crazy next year. And they can keep coming up, and I will be happy as anything. Same with the tomatillos. It's like they reseeded there from the compost I brought in, and they're going to reseed wherever tomatillos drop in the garden. So they're going to come up whenever. So just keep that in mind. So when you see the plants coming up, if they're not where you want, pull them, try to transplant them. They can be a little shocky sometimes if it's not real wet, and it's hard on the roots. So if you can be really careful, carefully dig out, lift them out, and put them where you want them, that works just fine. But these two are really fun to have in the garden, really easy to grow, and you'll have people asking what they are. It's a great experiment.